They don't want this to end, do they? Sage scientists warning of unknown future variants, and the Labour Party seeking evidence for the lifting of restrictions. By the way, I wouldn't call these lifting of restrictions early. They should never have happened in the first place. And please don't give me any of this guff about how we're losing free tests. They're not free. Did you know they cost you and me about £2 billion a month? And all they do is perpetuate this hysteria, not to mention how uncomfortable this testing is for many. Children find it distressing. And of course, the colossal environmental impact of all the plastic in these kits is a disgrace. I'd like to see all of those COVID tests melted down into something more useful, perhaps a massive plastic sign, one installed in every town and city, saying all of this madness is over. The ditching of all COVID restrictions, including the need to isolate at home if you've had a positive test, is better late than never from the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who at the moment, frankly, is doing a great job of proving me wrong. Well done, Boris. I confidently predict we will look back on the last 2 years as an historic, catastrophic health policy disaster. With £500 billion borrowed already and a decimated economy, how many more lockdowns do you think we can afford before families debate which of their children they're going to eat first? It gives me great pleasure to say bye-bye COVID. You've had too much prominence for too long at the expense of far worse diseases like cancer, diabetes and depression. Take a look at this graph showing the infection mortality rate from COVID. And you'll see, let me take you through it, the over 75s who get COVID-19, tragically 3% of the over 75s lose their lives. And of course, the younger you get, that number just falls off a cliff. We stopped the world for that. In terms of public health policy, it's time to relegate COVID to where it should have been from the start, alongside other respiratory viral infections. And there is, in particular, no excuse not to completely unlock now that we have Omicron. Far from avoiding Omicron, in my opinion, the healthy should all be getting it. I think we should be having Omicron parties, because that's how you increase immunity and get back to normal. Ignoring the natural immunity acquired by healthy people getting the virus, as argued for by the Harvard University epidemiologist Martin Kulldorff, is something we should have done in the first place. And it's been the scandal of the last 2 years to ignore natural immunity, another casualty of the pandemic. Has anyone in the history of the universe ever self-isolated with a cold, other than being too tired to get out of bed? Well, for many, COVID symptoms have been no worse than a nasty flu. And Omicron has proved to be a great gift to the world, a variant of COVID which is milder than Michael Bublé's greatest hits. But the elite laptop class don't want this to end. The broadcaster Kay Burley tweeted this today. It was a photograph of the Queen with the news that the Queen has COVID, and of course we wish her well. Apparently the symptoms are very mild. But underneath the photograph of the Queen, Kay Burley has tweeted, "Might this impact on any decision by the government to further lift COVID restrictions?" They just don't want this to end. Was Kay Burley so concerned when she partied with her mates on her birthday at the height of lockdown? You tell me. Or writing in the Mail on Sunday, ex-Vogue editor Alexandra Schulman, another paid-up member of the well-heeled laptop classes, again hesitant about lifting restrictions. Here's what she said. She's written this article, and basically she talked about the fact that she's had COVID and she still can't smell the flowers in her garden. Oh, she's got a garden. How lovely for her. Of course she's got a garden. Or what about those lockdowns for others? You try doing months of lockdown with 2 or 3 small kids on the 32nd floor of a high-rise. Smug middle-class cheerleaders of lockdown should hang their heads in shame after the damage that has been done. And yet some are asking for more of the same. The good, honest, working-class people of this country were the whipping boys and girls of this pandemic, going out to work every day whilst well-paid media types baked banana bread, mowed the lawn, watered their petunias, and cracked open a bottle of Pinot Grigio at 5 p.m. as they tended to their last emails of the day. Independent Sage, the sectarian wing of regular Sage, don't want this to end either. But to anyone that pushed for these restrictions, I'm afraid it's game over. The burden of proof was on you to demonstrate we needed these restrictions, that they would work, and we expected a cost-benefit analysis, but none of these things were forthcoming. So the damage is done. People won't get those years back, those memories, those life moments, that income. The health damage and the economic impacts are all irreversible and are all on you, the lockdown cheerleaders. So now it's our turn. From now on, we do it our way, which is to inform people of the risks, offer them support and protection, particularly the vulnerable, for which I believe money should be no object. But never again should the public have their faces covered with a filthy rag that's been described by CNN's chief medical advisor as facial decoration. Never again should we stop people from going to work and providing for their families and contributing to the economy which pays for the NHS. Never again should we threaten someone's job for a medical intervention. And never again should there be a policy focused exclusively around vaccination. With a vaccine, yes, largely safe and fantastic for those who risk hospitalisation or death, but one which I believe has been largely oversold in terms of its ability to end the pandemic. Here's an inconvenient truth. The ultimate vaccine is being healthy. COVID-19 is a nasty virus and we all hate it. But like everything in nature, it's brutally honest too. Notwithstanding those with complex health issues outside of their control, and of course they must be protected, COVID-19 is otherwise a largely lifestyle-related illness. Did you see the PM on TV this morning? He's quite a unit, isn't he? And that's why he was hospitalised and flirted with death at the hands of the virus. Thankfully, he pulled through. Millions of people with a lower BMI shrugged off this virus, and at least a third of the population had no symptoms at all. And we stopped the world for that. God help me. But if you're worried about future variants, it's very clear now that the lever of lockdowns and other mandates have been pulled to destruction, and in my view are now permanently discredited. Massively expanding hospital capacity for winter surges and a general public health message of slim down and be healthy is the only long-term sustainable solution to handle COVID and other such viruses. I was truly shocked to read an interview with the woman who discovered the Omicron variant in South Africa, Dr. Angelique Coetzee. She made it categorically clear in November that Omicron was mild, and she couldn't understand why European countries were treating it like a worse disease. I wonder if it was political. Well, in a more recent interview, she said the following, and here's a quote. In South Africa, Omicron is a lighter disease. But in Europe, it has been a serious illness, which is what the politicians want me to say. There has been, wait for it, a lot of pressure from European scientists and politicians who have said, please don't say it's a mild illness. Welcome to hell. In the end, COVID was not the bubonic plague, just a nasty virus which exposed the weaknesses of our health systems around the world and the poor public state of health in this country. We have nuked the country in a failed attempt to control the virus. We committed suicide for the fear of death. Well, it's over. There may be future variants, and we'll have to get on with it. Life is dangerous. As the storms of the last 24 hours have taught us, and as Vladimir Putin is teaching us right now, as he circles his wagons on the border of Ukraine, it's time to accept that life is dangerous. And we must now have a bonfire of all of the COVID restrictions so that Britain and its amazing people can rise like a phoenix out of the ashes. And as we recover and bounce back mightily, which we will, 2 words must resonate across the length and breadth of this land. Never again.